Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about cinematographer, or sometimes they are also called as DP or DOP, director of photographer. So let's dive deep into it. Now, why exactly we need a director of a photographer or a cinematographer here? Basically, film is not science. You have to understand this very thoroughly. You can judge cameras based on their technical specification, and while that will be factually true, it means nothing. Nothing. Nope. Zilch, zero, nothing. Why? Because films are art form. What does that mean? That simply means it does not matter how does it look. It matters, do you emotionally connect with it? There are movies that are made on chump change and they literally rip your guts out. And then there are movies that are like billions of dollars and billions of dollars, and outcome is like, dude, are you serious? Did you literally put this on a IMAX screen? So you have to understand that it's an art form. It does not have basically just a mechanical output to it. If you make it mechanical, the feel will be gone. And it's basically cinematographer is what we classify as subordinate of director. Practically, director is above that. So, and this whole crew, basically director, cinematographer, lighting artist, all that jazz makes a part of the crew. Now, what's the job of director here? Basically, director is the one who asks. Basically, he's gonna read the script and it's like, I think this scene will be well shot if it was, let's say, in a restaurant during golden hours, and he's gonna create some criteria limitation where it's like it has to be done in this sort of constraint. That constraint will be passed on to cinematographer. Cinematographer is gonna like, okay, I know the place where I can do this. I know the place where I will have this sort of timing. It has a lot of glass, so we're gonna have like true lighting situation and all that. So that would be cinematographer's job. Basically, director asks, cinematographer delivers. Now, director is also very important here because he is the one who is reading the whole picture. Cinematographer is like a sniper scope. He's like, I got this one specific thing. Now, director is like, I got the whole movie. And somebody has to do that, because again, if you try to do, the person who's looking at the whole movie will lose the specification, the resolution of each scene. So that's why we have two layers of operation, so to say. Now, these two must work together. Basically, if you have director and director of photography, they must work together, because flat out, if there is not proper synergy there, proper marriage there, it will look lame. Like you will notice it, or not even notice it, as I say, you will feel it, so to say. You'll feel the lack of it. It's like, it's not, there's no love there. You will feel that. So it matters. They work together and they work well. That's why many times you will notice that some very large directors and producers, they generally have a set of people that they work with, because they are gelling well. They're very well married to each other. So they can read each other's thoughts and guide them each other to best output. So it is very important, vitally important for a movie to have a director and cinematographer making love to each other. Then we come to another aspect. What about the control? Like, who gets to decide what happens? Ideally, it will be director, but you have to understand the control is fluid, meaning many times cinematographer is responsible for the camera acquisition and all that, and director might say, you know what, I'm feeling more of like documentary vibe, low cost kind of vibe. So cinematographer will find a camera that suits that. Sometime opposite could also happen. Basically, director could be like, bro, IMAX, bro, that shall have IMAX. So it's a fluid control system here. Basically, you will not have like, you shall do this. It's not necessary, and again, not even desirable. So it has to be clear, because sometimes cinematographer may be like, hey bro, I get it, you read the script, you are looking at it, but what you are asking, it's not gonna flow, it's not gonna jive well, it's not gonna accentuate the way that you are expecting. So here's my feedback. And people have done that. People have done like where scenes have been shot multiple times, like how director wanted it, how cinematographer experiments with it, and many times even actors is like, you know what, I get it what you are trying to do, I think this location would be better. Because be mindful, no one individual can know it all. So this sort of feedback loop is really, really desirable. So it happens, and it is a very movie by movie basis. Sometimes the like director will be like, nah, this lens has to be used, this camera has to be used, and then you'll on it. And sometimes it will like, bro, I trust you. So this is why it matters. This is my most amazing cinematography scene I have seen. It's basically John Wick Part 1, because after that John Wick became a cartoon, but that was awesome. Then we come to the framing art. This is the first stage. Basically, this is where people do things like this. Now, framing is basically what controls the importance of the scene. Basically, there is a building. Which part of that building is important? It's the framing that's going to decide that. Let's say you focus on the logo. Okay, logo is important. You are subconsciously telling audience to focus on the logo. Read the logo. If you are like, okay, it's a building, logo might be there, people will not read it. You focus on it, you frame it, people will read it. That's why it matters. Like, framing controls the importance. Then it also, tells the quality of the shot. For example, if you have a shot like this, like me talking to the camera, okay, it's an okay shot. And then you have not really that good, right? Like, you can still hear me, but is it really that good? So that's one of those things. Quality of shot is directly proportional to the framing. If you put effort into the framing, it feels like it. For example, this is a very popular scene from Titanic. I Can Fly, and you can notice like how well that horizon line is going. And even it does not matter whether it's CG, it does not matter whether it's like a real shot, but the fact that somebody put the framing effort, that's what shows here. Because you can see that line never crosses here, because face color and that horizon color will match. So it is very ideal. It starts here. Like, pay attention. It does not start at the tip of the finger, because the finger will disappear if they do that. So it's a very well subtle glance. You can see that. And by the time it reaches the face point, they turn the camera in such a way that it's like, okay, now it's no longer creating a conflict. These are subtle things. Of course, these are not like somebody's gonna do their protector and all that. Subconsciously, you keep doing it. If you are really good, what we call an eye for a detail, these things will be subconsciously filtered for you. It's like, okay, that background line will not do. Like, you're not gonna do something like this. You do not want cutouts. You'll be like, so these are one of those things. And emotions is conveyed to you. Basically, how you are framing someone directly conveys emotion. Meaning, if some person is in like a good position, you'll be like completely centered, like, yeah, I got this, fam. If you're like the person is not really in good comfort, you may zoom in too much. It's like, whew, man, I don't know, man, like, what's up? So framing directly controls that sort of emotion that you are carrying, of what we call talents. In industry, they do not call actor or actresses, they call it talent. So talents have to, assuming they know how to act. If they do not know how to act, I can't help you, but they have to convey that emotion. And it's a framing job is to figure it out how much space you want to give them. And that changes everything. And not to mention, framing changes with motion. Now, how you are conveying the motion, that's very critical. For example, hero must always enter from one side, and villain must enter from the other side. And if you are writing a complex character drama, you may have a scenario where it's like a hero enters from one side, and when a hero is doing something quote unquote questionable, a hero will enter in the frame from other side, and you're like, does that matter? Yes, subconsciously. These are the things that we are subtle powder that you are adding on it, and it improves the taste. So framing changes that, and it's a very serious importance for love scenes, action scenes specifically. If you do not have flow in the action scene, it will not flow. And even for romantic scenes, even just as simple as a date scene, how camera is moving, it matters. Like, there are cinematographers who are popular because they figured out how to shoot two talents basically dancing, and they figured out the motion was looking like a very jerky and like cartoonish and lame. So they figured out how to use a camera dolly around them, and then that very dance motion that was like bleh, looked like whoa, art, emotions, love. So framing matters. This guy is important. Then we come to the composition. Now you have framed your shot. What the hell are you going to do after that? Basically, control how the lens sees things. Basically, lens have the ability to isolate things. So how do you control that? Lens controls have aperture. Okay, then you have FOV, field of view, basically millimeter, you have field of view. Then you have ISO, meaning the sensitivity. Generally, film cameras only have two sensitivity. One would be low gain, one would be high gain. Now, what about all the other ISO settings? Those can be added in post-production, because electrically, all sensors have only one gain setting. Sensor, analog to digital converter, that's it. So when you are talking about cameras that have dual gains, that's what they have. They have two digital circuits, basically two analog to digital converters. One converter will be fine-tuned for low light performance, another would be fine-tuned for medium light scenarios. The reason for low light specific circuit is like, if you use that low light circuit in daytime, it will overexpose. So that's why generally they have two ISO settings. Then you have to have lighting, and then we come to shutter angle. Now, shutter angle and shutter speeds are mathematically the same thing. They are so caching the same basically output, but shutter speed is independent of basically frame rate, while shutter angle is dependent on it. Meaning, if you have frame rate and shutter angle are tied together. This is back in the day when we had film stock. Film stock was rotating. It had like perforations, small holes that were going down, that was rotating a shutter, like physical disc, that was the shutter. So that rotation was tied together. So 180 means it was exposed half of the time, and 90 means it was exposed for like 1/3, and then it's like, that's how it was done. 270 was like, 1/4 of exposure of the frame rate. So frame rate and shutter angle is married together. Nowadays we use shutter speed because it's mathematically far more precise, and you go to cinema world, they have shutter angle. Those can be interconverted, but generally you may not get that precise control, because it may come as like, instead of 1/50th of a second, it may come to like, 1/53th of a second. So that's why still cinema cameras still will have shutter angle as a proper setting. Then you have to understand, this is how you're painting a story. Basically, if you're painting a scene like this, you have actor, and then you have a basically frame, you have crowds, everything is in focus. That creates a different sort of scene. Then you have this scene. When you have actor, That's it. Nothing is there. Nothing. Gone. Nothing. Everything is out of focus. Then you have this. You have focus. You have motion. Different kind of scene. Then you have this scene. Different kind of lighting. This is how you are painting it. This is how you describe it. Both are the same actor, by the way. So that's how you do it. And aperture. Aperture is very easy way to understand it. It's like aperture gives you isolation setting, meaning you can isolate your subject. That's a good thing. Or it's a bad thing if you're shooting action shot. Basically, if you want to see someone, let's say there is a dude and he got married, he was stupid, and then he got divorced, obviously, and then you want to show that he's in a club and he's like sad, you can have like very shallow depth of field and everybody is dancing and all that, and he's like, why I was so stupid. So you can isolate just using the same aperture setting. You can isolate him. Then you are talking about, let's say, a Marvel movie and you have action shot. If you do shallow apertures, it's not going to look good. So you say go to f4 or maybe even f8 when you have to do basically action shot. So that gives you a bit more leeway. Then we come to the shutter angle. 180 is generally used for romantic. Basically, if you have shooting movie her, you're gonna do that. 90 can be used for basically action. Not 90 as in 270. If you want to give some crispiness to the action, you can do that. And again, it's a setting, scene by scene. Cinematographer is going to think about it. He's going to plan it out. May even do a take, 1 or 2 takes. So that's how you do composition. You have basically low light scenario for moody environment, and then you have bright for comedies. Bright, dark, bright, dark. So this is all in the composition phase. Then we come to the final aspect, that is lighting. Lighting is very critical because everything else rotates around the lighting, meaning what setting your camera will have directly dependent on lighting, what framing you will have directly dependent on lighting. So lighting is defines what you see and what you don't see. That is very important because you decide that I'm going to look on his face, not going to look at where the hell he is standing. That's the core aspect. I'm going to look on his face, not the flag that is behind it. These are very thoroughly thought of consequences, and lighting controls it all. Now, natural lighting, best quality lighting. Need no discussion. End of discussion is like the end. Like you want top quality output, shoot in broad daylight. Problem is, while the quality is best, the control is horrible. Meaning you can literally have scenarios where film crew, whole actors, talents and all that jazz had to be moved to some other location simply because nature was not collaborating. You could have a rainy season, you can have something that is just not collaborating, you may have to move it. So that's one of those things. You get amazing output, but you get horrible control. That's pros and cons of it. Then we come to artificial lighting. Problem with these puppy is that they are expensive. Cinema quality lighting that has true basically spectrum profile of a proper incandescent bulb with LEDs, as in like incandescent is the best. Problem is they are very energy inefficient. So if you want to replicate the same feel of incandescent lamp, we have to put way too many LEDs. That's why RE LED lights panels are huge. They're expensive. Like they will give you sell your kidney kind of expensive, and one kidney may not even do it. So the reason is simply because they want to create the whole spectrum, because if you do not have the whole spectrum properly balanced, color of especially skin cell will look odd. So they are expensive and they take setup time, meaning sunlight is like you open the shutter, voila, there will be light. When you are talking about electrical system, just the electrical wiring itself could take time. And many times if the scene is very elaborate, it may have like few days of just setting up the light. Look at how much time it took for Titanic lighting. So it's one of those things. And lighting, allows you to paint properly, basically. And you, as a cinematographer, it would become your job to ask the people who are dealing with lighting. Basically, there would be a lighting crew, and these crew will be responsible for what you want. So basically, you're gonna tell them, hey, in that location, please put basically fill light there, a little bit of fill light. In here, key light, but make sure this puppy is soft AF. And then you have like a little bit of bounce. This is your job. As a cinematographer, you're gonna direct the crew. Now, lighting crew will, of course, they will also input their own feel to it. They will like, I get it, what the cinematographer is asking. That's why when people say cinema is a team effort, that's the reason for it. You can literally take a best cinematographer, give him a crappy lighting crew, he'll like either take twice as long to shoot the same thing, or he may not. He will just like, I'm out. So it matters. You have to guide them. It's like, hey, I want light here. How do you give the light? That's up to you. You have to trust your lighting crew also, that they know what they are doing. They're gonna figure out what's the best solution, how to mount it, how many bounces to have, and they may even give you choices. It's like, you know what, I think you want to experiment with it. We have one fade and we have second type of fade. Experiment with it. So it's a lighting crew's job to paint it. And high key, low keys, all of these, basically whenever you hear high key, it simply means high contrast. Low key means low contrast, something like this. Basically you have Batman, dark, then you have everything dark, then you have Superman, bright, everything is bright. Then you have Iron Man, techno, so every light is artificial light. So all these things are subtle things, but it goes through the mind of cinematographer. It is like, how the heck I'm gonna show it? This is one of those things where you can easily tell whether a movie is cheaply made or somebody put effort into it. I'm not talking about budget. Let this be very clear. It's not about the budget. It's about how much effort you put into the frame. You can see that, like many times you can see it. It's like, hey, somebody put the goddamn effort into it. But like, for example, Zack Snyder's, whether people like his movie or not, nobody denies that he puts effort into the frame. Every frame looks like somebody sat down and built it. Like, of course, the problem is he does not know how to apply brakes on CG, so he gets carried away a bit, so it does look too fake. But like from a comics point of view, like, just do not look at a realistic point, or just look at a fever dream kind of thing. It's like, whoa, he has that. Iron Man 1 was like, damn. So it's one of those things. Lighting allows you to paint everything. So this was my presentation on Cinematographer. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.